Went to the movies Friday, saw Beetlejuice this week. The new Beetlejuice sequel is out. They did a great job. If you saw the first Beetlejuice from a long, long time ago, they got a lot of the original cast back, the original Beetlejuice back. He looks exactly the same as he did 40 years ago because, all the makeup that he was wearing 40 years ago works perfect. So, great job with that. So, and it was pretty full theater. A lot of people going to see this. So Beetlejuice was done well. So if you saw the first, so see the first one. You got to see the first one if you want to go see the second one. You know, I don't know if it's on Netflix or what streaming service you can find it on, but I'm sure it's out there. And they've been playing it on TV since the new movie's out. But yeah, new Beetlejuice pretty good. All right. We've got 10 of us here. Turn your cameras on and make sure there's a face behind those little icons. Sure, we got some people here. Welcome. Good morning. There you go, guys. Come on in. Okay, let's get started looking at that. Hopefully, the rest of the folks will join us as we get going. So I'm going to pull this up on the screen so we can start looking at what this week's lesson teaches us and the assignment that's going to go with it. So our foundations of programming. I'm going to go to the grade screen as usual. All right, so we should have 101, 102 both done. Most people in this class have it done. I noticed there's a few people that are already behind and failing the class. Most everyone in here has an A or B, except for just a few people who have zeros on some assignments. If you have a zero on the assignment, then you are not an A or B. You're failing the class already. And notice these assignments are worth 10, 25, and 25. This week's assignment is worth 100 points. Programs are worth a lot more than these assignments. So if you're getting behind and, even if you're caught up, if you don't do the programming assignment, you'll be failing next week because it's worth a lot of points. Next week, we'll have another 25-point assignment, but then we'll have another 100-point assignment here for the string input program and then the Module 1 exam. So we'll have a lot of points on the programs. So don't skip those. All right, let's go back and look at the lesson. So this week, the only thing we have is 1.03. We can see that's due Sunday. So just one thing per week here. So let's go to 1.03 and see the lesson that goes with that. Printing strings lesson. For the purposes of this course, take everything you know about printing and chuck it out the window. In programming, to print something doesn't mean you're going to go to the printer and pull up a sheet of paper that has something on it, because that's what we think. When we think of printing, we think of sending something to a printer and then going and holding something in our hand. For the purpose of this program in Python, when you print something, that means display it on the screen. So printing means a little something different in programming. So we're going to learn how to demonstrate an understanding of the characteristic of strings, write a computer program using the print function, and identify and describe types of printing errors. So let's take a look at this week. Printing with Python. The print function in Python is used anytime you want your program to display something to the screen, which is often, unless you're a fan of blank screens. They try to be funny in here. So this is what you want your user to see in a nutshell. If you don't print it, they don't see it. So printing is very important in programming because that's how you get something on the screen. All right, so let's follow the instructions on each slide, complete the activity. Okay, on the right are instructions. Read the code, try to predict the output. Read the code, try to predict the output. Select run program, and then let's look at the output. Select next when you're ready. Hashtag print example. Now remember, we talked about in the first week or a couple of weeks ago that when you see the hashtag, that just means this is a comment. Please ignore. That means Python will totally ignore this line. Line 1, Python just skips it. That's meant for people, programmers, us, to read, to understand a comment that the programmer has added in there to let us know what's going on. So that, in this case, this is the title of our program, print example. Now we have this DEF main again. So this is called define main. We're defining the main function of our program. So you have to put these parentheses, you have to put the colon or creates an error. And then we have a statement, print. And again, we've got the quotes. It's in quotes. This is a print statement in Python. So everything that's inside those quotes is literally what it should display in the output. And this ends the main function. So we started the main function, ended the main function, and what happens in the main function is this print statement. So let's run it. This is a print statement in Python, exactly what we would expect to see, because that's exactly what we put inside the quotes. Because we're saying, quote me on this, literally quote me. Whatever I say, put exactly right there. And that's what Python did. Python ran the print statement and printed a message to the screen for you. And notice there's some spaces here. This has to be indented. Everything that's part of this main function has to be indented over. See what happens if we delete that. Oh, look at there. Got a parse error. Bad input on line 4. I didn't change anything. I just took out the spaces to where it's not indented anymore. If it's not indented, Python has an error. So got to put those spaces in for every line that's inside the main function. See, now it works again, just because I put the spaces back. All right, let's hit the next. Okay, this says, under the first print statement, type another one that will display the message, I am printing, exclamation mark. Okay, and then run and look at that output. So we're going to go to the end of this, and we're going to add another line. And look, it automatically indented it for me since I just hit enter from the last one. Print, quote, I am printing, exclamation mark, quote, parentheses. So we got to have the quotes, got to have the parentheses, because without that, it's going to create an error as well. So run the program. There it is. Now it prints both lines as the first print statement that was already there, and then the one we just added, I am printing. Congratulations on successfully typing a print statement. And you can do this. This is on page 2 of our lesson. So you can go to Buzz, to our lesson this week, and practice this as well. All right, now here's another one. This is our slide 3 of 3. Print example, define main. This is a print statement in Python. I am printing, will this print? So now we're telling it to print, will this print? So when we run the program, we have an error on line 6. All right, I'm going to open up the chat. What is the error? Why did it not print? We just did 2 print statements. We just added another print statement. Why did that cause an error to print 3 things? Because it does have the spaces that the other one has. You know, it's exactly spaced over. Giving everyone a chance to look at it. Some of you are putting it in the chat. That's great. You're on top of it. This is one of the things, when we write a program, a lot of times we're going to have an error because somewhere we missed something. And that happens. Even when I write a program, I write it and there's an error. Then I got to go back and go, oh, where's the error? The error is we did not put it in quotes. Bad input error. Did not tell it to quote this. So it didn't know what to do with it. No quotes. Now when we add the quotes, now it works. There's the first print statement, the second print statement, and the new third print statement. Will this print? Got to have those quotes. If that's exactly what you want to see on the screen, will this print? It has to be in quotes. All right, good job. So you just printed and debugged our first program. See, we found an error. That's debugging. And as you see in Python's print function, it's pretty straightforward. So anytime you want to print something, you use this print statement and boom, it's right there on the screen. All right, printing can easily go awry and not display correctly, especially when printing a string value versus a string literal. Now, what do we mean by a string? This is a string of letters. We string all these letters together and they make words for us. And so anytime you're printing letters, it's computers look at that as a string of letters. All right, let's go to the next page. So we're printing a string. String what? A string is a sequence of letters, numbers, spaces, symbols, anything that's in quotes. Alphanumeric information. That's any combination of letters, numbers, symbols. Anything we put in those quotes, that's a string of characters. It could be a single letter. It could be a word. It could be a phrase. And so to make Python print your strings exactly as you wrote them, you got to put them in quotes, which we just saw on the previous page. So a string within quotation marks is called a string literal, because that means we literally want it to print what's in the quotes. Print this string of characters, literally. Don't interpret it differently. Literally do this. This is one of the few times you actually see the word literally used properly, because we literally want to print that. A series of keyboard characters included within opening and closing quotation marks. So why do they call it a string literal? Because Python will print literally what you type. So let's roll over the code below to see how the print functions used. So print, this will print. We roll here. That's the print function that's built into Python. And this is the string value to print. That's the quotation mark indicating the start. I don't have it over the parentheses. And that's the ending quotation mark. So it says everything between these two quotation marks. I literally want you to see that on the screen. So this Python statement tells your computer to display the phrase, this will print, because the print function and instructions are built into Python. Someone else wrote the code that tells it when you see print, parentheses, print that. So they changed that to machine code and print it. Remember, always be sure to type print followed by parentheses. Have to have the parentheses. Everything inside the parentheses, you can type whatever you want Python to print in there. But if you forget quotes when printing a string literal, the computer will still be confused. So string literals. So print statement. Print, parentheses, quote. Are we having fun yet? Unquote, parentheses, will display this. Are we having fun yet? Everything inside those quotation marks. All right, let's look at page 4. All right, it's time to say hello world. All right, time to say hello world. So you're going to need to open up Buzz in another tab, because this is the traditional way to start your programming journey. Traditionally, in fact, there's a collection of hello world programs online. Even Steve Jobs and Bill Gates started with simple programs like hello world. That's generally the start of your programming life. At the beginning, you go in and you say hello world in whatever language you're printing in. So we're going to honor that tradition and look at that right there. So I'm going to click on this little link too. And here we go. The latest edition's over here in bold. So look, here's all these different languages that people have posted hello world programs in. Hundreds and hundreds here. I mean, there's a lot of different languages. But, and see, there's newer versions of Python. There's Python 2 and Python 3. There's newer versions of Python. But right here, this is a collection of 603 hello world programs in as many more or less well-known programming languages, plus 78 human languages. And oh my goodness, yeah, they're just all listed here. And then here's some of the languages. Hello world in whatever language this is. It doesn't even use alphanumeric characters that we understand. But here is different programs written. Oh, this language, 4D language, uses alert instead of print. For test language, it says test case, print hello world, parentheses, print, quote, hello world. A language called eighth does it like this, quote, hello, comma, world, with a slash in, quote, and a period. All kinds of weird stuff. So you can go and see other languages right here and see how they do it. Procedure, main, print, E, quote, hello world, quote, return. That's this action language. All kinds of different languages out there. So it's just kind of cool to see how other people do this. Oh, assembler language. We talked about assembler language. We got to do a lot of zeros and ones. But I'm going to go see if there's something in basic language, because that's the one that was popular. Wow, look how long that is to print hello world. Good gracious. Assembler language. Yes, because that's where you got to convert everything down to ones and zeros at some point. So it's got, wow, all of this. There's the ones and zeros to print hello world. So there's a lot there. Basic. Yes, basic. We had to write 10 and 20. You had to write whatever line of program that is. Python automatically numbers it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But yeah, this is a remark. That's like a hashtag. Hello world in basic. Print hello world. So basic is very similar to Python. It just doesn't have the parentheses. But that was the first language I learned to program in right there. So kind of cool. All right. So we're gonna watch this video. It's gonna tell us how to write our first program in the in-course idle. Remember, we hit this idle button right here to open up your programming window. So don't forget that. If you want your programming window, you got to hit the idle button right there. So, all right. Hopefully you got your buzz open, but now let's watch this video. All right. There we go.
Let's write our first Python program. To start, use the pound sign to add some comments. Include your name, date, program purpose, and other important information. Next, add a blank line followed by the def main statement. This is a Python keyword that tells your program, start here. For the body of the program, we'll use the print function to display the string literal hello world. Make sure to indent this line with 4 spaces or Python won't recognize it as a command. Finally, end your program with the main function, so Python knows you're done. When you select Run Program, the program should output and print hello world.
All right, I'm going to leave that on the screen for a moment. So switch to another tab, open up the programming window. And this is important. I'm glad they mentioned this because every program, we're going to put our name, date, and what the program is with hashtags at the beginning. Because if I just decided to print out all the programs and grade them by hand, your name needs to be on it. So name, date, and which program this is, the purpose of your program. So everybody open up a Python window, go to Buzz, go to our lesson, hit that idle button, and let's write your first official hello world program to introduce yourself to the world of programming. Like I said, I'll leave these instructions on the screen here if you need to come back and refer to it. If anyone has any trouble, be sure to let us know. Happy to help you if you have any issues. But you're writing your first official program here. Looks like most of you found the proper buttons. Looks like your programs are coming along really nicely. Make sure it'll run when you get it finished. Make sure there's no errors. Anyone have any problem with anything? Looks like it's going well. For the ones I can see on the screen. See a lot of people with hello world there. Great. Got your def main statement, define main function. Don't forget to close that at the end with the main. All right, I'll give you another few seconds and we'll go look at the rest of the lesson, but I just want to give you a chance to make sure you had your hello world program. Make sure everything works for you. Because if you can do this, you're going to have no problem with the assignment. If you can run this and get it to work without errors, you're not going to have any problem this week with the assignment. Remember, it said to put 4 spaces. That's what Python likes as an indentation, to indent it 4 spaces. But then you don't indent the main function or the closing main function. That should not be indented. Just everything that's inside the main function should have those 4 spaces. So did anyone already have to debug their first program? Anyone have some errors and have to go, oh, why didn't this work? Not a bad thing if you did. I mean, guys, we're going to do that a lot all year. Just because there's always the longer the program gets, especially, there's some little thing that you usually forget. It's like, oh, that's right. That's why that didn't work. That to go smaller. Okay. Now that you've seen idle in action, it's your turn, which we just did that. Great. So this gives you the steps, which, you guys were able to do this without having to look at the actual steps. You open idle, add the comments, put your main function, indent and print, close the main function and run it. All right, let's go to page 5. Bugs happen. Yes, bugs happen. We're human. We make mistakes. In fact, in programming, making mistakes is how we learn, because then we got to actually understand why there's an error. The more mistakes and errors you make when coding, the more opportunities you have to practice and figure out what can go wrong. The goal is to eventually get it all right, but getting it wrong a few times is usually what gets you there. Programmers refer to errors as bugs, and one of their jobs is to fix bugs. So this process is called, you guessed it, debugging. Now, this is really cool. Where did this term come from? When did we start calling errors bugs? There's been a lot of speculation about this. A lot of people have opinions, but the most common legend, this is the story that most people think is what really happened. One day, Grace Hopper was testing the Mark II computer system at Harvard. Grace Hopper was a student at Harvard, and the problem was not a coding error. There was actually a moth. A moth had wedged itself into the machine, and when they were searching for the problem on why their program wasn't working, there was a moth. Look, here's a picture of it. They removed the unfortunate moth, taped it into their logbook with a note that said, this is the first actual case of a bug being found. There was and that's back when you had to turn the machine, hand cranks. The computers were quite like a machine more than electronics. And there was a moth that had gotten into the machine and caused it to not be able to work right. So the computer had been debugged, and then it worked. And so the term stuck. So now that's been referred to ever since. So the good news is you can fix bugs as you go, and the computer may even help point some of the bugs out, because it'll tell you what line that the bug is on sometimes. So Grace Hopper, 1906 to 1992, most likely to coin the term. Much deserving of this. Grace is credited for popularizing the term debugging as well as compiler. And she also created the first compiler. She's known as Amazing Grace for her obvious contributions to programming and her work as a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. So she had a high-ranking Navy officer. Grace Hopper. All right, page 6. Preventing programming problems. So here's some of the most easy and common errors. A syntax error. That's when you've broken a programming language rule. Like, this sentence shouldn't have any errors. You see any errors? There are some errors there. See, in English, spelling, grammar, and punctuation is a syntax error. Here's the correction. This sentence shouldn't. It should be a little apostrophe in there. And any was misspelled. So there was 2 errors. It didn't have the apostrophe and shouldn't, and any was misspelled. So programming languages have rules for their structure too. Like right here, here's an error. Print hello world, right? Because it needs to have the parentheses and the quote. Without the parentheses and the quote, that's a syntax error. That means you've written something incorrectly. You've left something out. So a syntax error is very, very common. So if you get a syntax error, look to see what you missed. Did I not put a quote? Did I not put in? Maybe I put one parentheses and forgot to put the other parentheses. Here's some other tips. Check your spelling and capitalization. Python is case sensitive. If you capitalize that print, you're going to get an error. It should not be a capital P. Check your punctuation. Is there a quote missing? Parentheses. Check your spacing. Did you move your spaces 4 spaces before the print statement? Sometimes, and this is a big one sometimes, when it says there's an error in line 6, sometimes it's actually line 5 that created the error, because line 5 set up something and then line 6 wasn't what it was expecting to see because we did something wrong in line 5. So a lot of times it's in a line next to it. And then talk out loud. Read the code out loud to yourself. Really, I mean, it sounds like a weird story, but once you say it out loud, sometimes your ears hear the bug that your mind keeps skipping. All right, page 7. Post-mortem review. Yeah, that's what we call an autopsy on a human body, right? That's the post-mortem after you die. No. So Professional programmers develop a strong habit for success early on. We call this the post-mortem review. It's like after you're done with your program, this is something where you just kind of journal how it went. So the post-mortem review, it's a very short written statement that evaluates how it went, reflects on it, and how the program could have been improved. You know, if I'd have done this when I wrote that program, it would have been better. A lot of times after we write a program, we think of something that we should have done, but we don't want to go back and do it now. So this allows programmers to share your lessons learned and be more efficient and effective. So take a look at the following sample, because these are the questions you're going to have. Every program, you're going to have to answer these questions. What was the purpose of your program? Well, the purpose of this program was to say happy birthday to my sister, and it gave me a chance to practice Python. How could your program be useful in the real world? Because we're writing in this class, but maybe you have a program that could actually be used by other people. It's going to show it. I'm going to show it to my sister on her birthday, and it'll be like a birthday card. Instead, I programmed it. What is a problem you ran into, and how did you fix it? I kept typing happy birthday without the quotation marks, and it wouldn't work. So when I realized I had that wrong, I fixed it, and it worked. Describe one thing you would do differently next time. Well, I learned it's important to pace myself and pay attention to details. So when I got the syntax wrong, I learned what happens when I don't use quotation marks. So I know I need to pay attention so I don't leave out important stuff like quotation marks. So that's a nice little summary of questions you're going to be answering every program. All right. Complete the reading this lesson, practice using Python, follow the assignment template. So I do have a template for this, and I will load that every time we have a program. I will have, and I'm going to show you where it's at here, because that's the end of this lesson. So if we go to the assignment has nothing. It's just that's where you turn it in. Well, that's where you need the template. So let's go look at the template here. So in our classwork tab, so here's our class. If I go to classwork, go to do this week in Buzz. Look, do this week in Buzz with template. There's a template here. So you need to use the template to turn in your program. So if I click on this template, it's going to create a copy of it for you. And here's your template, and it gives the instructions. This assignment has two parts. So here's part one. Write a program to display a message to the screen. It can be a poem, a song, or just information about you. So you get to choose. But here are the guidelines that your program should include. All right, so this is the stuff that gets you the 100 points. First, you're going to use Python idle. That's easy. Yeah, that's what you click in the idle. Use comments. Type a heading that has your name, date, and a description of what your program is. All right, so do those 3 hashtags as lines 1, 2, and 3. Then you decide what message you want to play to the screen. And again, they give you those ideas. Could be your favorite poem, your favorite song, a few sentences, whatever. Be sure to set up your def main statement. Don't forget the parentheses and the colon. If you leave out that parentheses and colon at the end of the def main statement, it'll give you an error. And then you're going to use at least 5 print statements to display your message, whether that's the poem, song lyrics, just information about you, whatever you are deciding to print. And it can be whatever you want, just at least 5. Can I do 8 print statements? Yes, that's at least 5. So at least 5 print statements. And then end your program with the main statement. Make sure you follow the indentation. You know, if you don't indent the print statements, it'll give you errors. Make sure it works properly. So fix any errors. So here's an example of what someone else wrote. Gosh, I wonder who wrote this. That's a really good program. Their output says, hello world, Mr. Brock is the greatest. No, really, I mean it. I need more lines there. That should do it. That's at least 5, right? So you don't have to include your output, by the way. You don't have to include your output. But here it is. Insert your program code here. And it says don't screenshot it. You need to copy and paste it. So when I go, and do I have the idle window still open here? I do. Okay, so when I go write my program, you know, here's my program. I wrote all my program. When I'm done with it, I need to copy it, copy, and paste it. So that way, because I take your program, I copy it, and I paste it and see if it runs. So do not screenshot it, copy it and paste it into the template. So I should find your code right here. All right, so insert your code. And then here's those 4 questions. After you get finished with your program works, you've debugged it, you've put it in the template. Now you go down here and you answer the question. What was the purpose of your program? I needed to write my first program with at least 5 print statements. I printed my favorite song or whatever, How could your program be used in the real world? I could have a web page that gives lyrics to songs or something. What a problem you ran into, how'd you fix it? And describe one thing you might do differently next time. Yeah. Maybe next time I'll include the music notes or something. I don't know. So these will be, there's not a right or wrong answer on these. As long as you answer them honestly, right, you'll get credit. If you skip these, they're worth like 20 points. I mean, that's quite a bit of points just to answer those 4 questions. So don't skip the postmortem review. So that's what you're doing this week. You're writing the program. You're going to copy and paste it from idle. You're going to copy and paste it right into there. And then you're going to answer the questions. And then you turn in this template. So how do you do that? If Buzz will let you, and I tried to get tech to fix this last week, you can share it, right? You got to make sure and share it. Copy the link, and then you can go back here to Buzz. Where's this? Oh, Buzz. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. And I can add a Google file. Or I can just add a file with the link. I can put the link right there. Oh, no, I got to choose it. So anyway, you save it. You save your Google file. Save this. Make sure you do share it with me though. But save this in your Google Drive, and then you just come back here and choose it. Pick one, or not create one. Pick one. Choose the file, wherever your Google file is. If it doesn't let you, sometimes Google and Buzz don't talk well, and it won't let me attach my template. Then make sure you submit it here. I mean, it'll have it in here. So you'll say, go here instead and say in Google Classroom. So that way you can turn something in Buzz. You need to turn something in Buzz. If it won't let you attach your template, just go say it's in Google Classroom and then submit my work. So that way something's turned in. I go here to grade it and I go, oh, it's in Google Classroom. So I'll go back to Google Classroom and I'll get your template from there. So that's how we turn in programs. We use the template and we turn it in Buzz or Google Classroom if Buzz won't let us. And that way it's submitted and turned in. Okie dokie. Any questions on that? Like I say, if you haven't done the first 2 assignments, get those done, then write your program, but don't skip the program. It's worth 100 points. These 5-question quizzes we've been taking only worth 25 points. So programs are worth much, much more because you have to show me you know how to program, right? Anyone can answer the questions and maybe even guess the questions sometimes. Oh, look, I got an 80% on it. I just guessed. I didn't even look at the lesson. Well, you're not going to be able to do it with the program because programming will show me you know what you're doing because you're writing a program, right? So if you have trouble with the program, come see me. Oh, wait a minute. This is a B day. So Wednesday will be the only other day that we'll have class. So come to class Wednesday if you're trying to write your program and you're getting errors. You can also copy your program and paste it into an email and say, Mr. Brock, it keeps telling me I have an error on line 7, but I can't find it. Can you help me? I am happy to help you find errors. I will help you debug a program. If you've looked at it and you can't figure it out, I don't know what's going on. Copy and paste it. Like I said, don't screenshot it because then I can't copy and paste it back into an idle program. Because you'll copy and paste it. I'll copy it out of your email and I'll paste it and run it and see if I can't help you debug it. So I'm happy to help you do that. So come to class Wednesday if you have trouble with bugs or send me an email. We can set up a time outside of class on Wednesday if we need to. We'll set up a time if you want to meet with me. But you can also just email it to me and I'll say, oh, here it is in line 7. You forgot to put this, whatever it was. So, all right, guys, I'll let you go at it then. First programming. We're going to write another one in 2 weeks. We're going to add more and more throughout the semester. So have fun with it. Enjoy yourself. Pick something fun to print something you want to see on the screen. And we'll see you next time. If your grades are below 70, I'll see you Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.